I'm Don Mooers, and welcome to Montgomery Weekend Review. The second debate among Republicans running to become President of the United States proved to be even more entertaining, or at least popular with the viewers, than the first debate. Brian Karem, executive editor of the Sentinel newspapers, is here to comment. Medical tests to discover cancer abound, but the results do not always suggest that treatment is necessary immediately. Henry Hailstock has the details on this story. The truancy program operated by the state's attorney's office is expanding into 2 new middle schools. Rexanah Wyse, who is a leader at the state's attorney's office for this program, is here to explain. Uniformed police in public schools, whose presence is accepted throughout our community, face a dilemma today about whether or not they can or should wear body cameras in our schools. Fred Evans, who comments regularly for us on education-related issues, has this story. Brian Karem, listen, last night...
Start with me.
Well, you know, as we're going through this, we've got 2 school-related stories in the second half of the program, but last night's debate reminded me of school. Jake Tapper, the moderator, was the principal/teacher, and then he had basically 11 unruly students up there. So set the scene for us.
You just did. The only thing I could say is bleh. It was like I said, it was like a truckload of dogs and a truckload of cats met on the highway in a huge explosion, and we all sat and laughed and watched. It was completely empty of any
So it's really,
I guess, substance.
was it 10 versus 1? Was it Trump and then the 10 all trying to take on Trump, or were there some individuals who were actually trying to get things across?
It was cacophony. It was there were no issues debated. There was nothing of substance said. It was filled with gotcha moments. And of course, if you favored Trump, then you thought he came out ahead. If you favored someone else, you thought they came out ahead. And at the end, the only people that suffered were the American public.
This morning, watching the news, it seemed that Fiorina was the #1 topic of discussion.
Anointed by the press. I'm sorry, I watched it and I don't agree. No. And I want you to know, Don, I watched it all the way through just for you. And because I am now numb, you owe me a lot of alcohol.
Why have I taught history? I've always been interested in politics.
God bless you. I wish they knew history.
I remember the first election I remember is 1952, Eisenhower and Stevenson, right? Why have we gotten to this point that you just described?
Well,
all kidding aside.
All kidding aside, you could blame TV. Some blame Ronald Reagan for being the founder of the feast of the current political discourse. But I think it has to do a lot with the current creep or crawl or jump down the hill. Social media has a lot to do with it. People favoring and Fox News is to blame, and so is MSNBC, and those who favor opinion versus facts. The press has a lot to do with it. We have to take our lumps because rather than presenting vetted facts, we're presenting opinions as facts, and so people are conforming their facts to fit their opinion rather than their opinion based on facts. And that shows in political discourse. And where's the money? You want to get the money, you want to get the gotcha moment, you want to be popular, you want to get your ratings. Why is Donald Trump on CNN calling in CNN every night? Why are they taking his call? I mean, you watch any CNN show and Donald Trump is calling in and has a comment. And now Tom Brady has come out and favored Donald Trump, which shows why Tom Brady should have been suspended for 4 games, but that's another story. And the bottom line is it's all about getting that gotcha moment, getting money, getting your face on TV.
Last night, I was tuned in for the foreign policy debate, and it was very interesting because there was in the third half at the beginning. Marco Rubio was incredibly effective in laying out the troubles around the world, and Donald Trump talked about how he was going to bring in a great team, and because he did deals around the world, he was going to know the leaders by the time he started.
The whole Putin thing, and
all that
she
stuff.
Didn't want to be. The problem with any of it, to have a debate, you have to actually disagree with each other and present competing ideas, which we don't see.
Well, let me say where we can see competing ideas and see the facts, stories about the facts. Sentinel newspaper, right?
My God, yes. www.thesentinel.com. Thank you for the plug.
There you go.
If it's local, we're there. But what you don't see in those debates are any value or any substance. Particularly, it's all dumbed down. It's all made very simple. Putin, bad, or Putin, I can work with him. And, as far as any type of real strategy or substance in the debate, there is none. And if you want to, and honestly, it is hard with that many candidates to have any amount of effective depth.
Agree.
In your debate, but it has dissent. Like I said, it's why not just do dancing of the network stars for the Republican candidates? If you got the dance, you're going to be the guy.
Well, see, that's the problem I really face with this debate anyway. Number one, why are you going to have 12, then cut down to 11 candidates out of a party when you need to work with your party to come up with 2, maybe 3 strong candidates to start really a debate and a campaign to come out successful? Everything is watered down. And everything that you're going to try to talk about winds up being back and forth to individuals and no substance whatsoever, as you said.
We've got a minute left.
Well, it's even worse than that, because the Republican Party seems to believe that the next president of the United States, they're desperately holding on to their view of America that doesn't exist. It has not evolved. It doesn't include people of different race, creeds, or color.
But where are the
Rexanah, you want to?
So what can be done to add substance to these type of debates?
That's
good.
Well, euthanasia, mild sedatives, LSD. Honestly, how are you? You can't add to the debates any type of substance. What you have to do is the electorate has to be more involved, and that's the bottom line. How many people do not vote? Get out and vote. If there's one thing that this country, there was an old song, freedom of choice is what you got, freedom from choice is what you want. Vote, or you're not going to get the choice.
And where can people see the local implications of national issues and national issues coming out of our local issues? What's the best?
www.thesentinel.com, the Montgomery County Sentinel. We're there for you, baby.
Thanks, Brian. Henry Hailstock.
Yes.
We go from politics and anarchy and chaos to a little bit of confusion when it comes to diagnoses, especially in the cancer area. Tell us a little bit about the issues.
I'm glad you said a little confusion, because you're absolutely correct. People are told year after year, get screened for cancer to prevent any serious disease that might kill you. And that's true. However, we look at, you have a number of scientific heretic individuals who are published in major medical journals, who are from major institutions here in the United States that are telling us something different, that we need to take a real look at the screening process and try to do a better job of having screening where we will have major views of the cancers that will cause us some catastrophic.
Is this a little bit out of, we know the body, we're learning more and more, the ability to zero in. And I guess what has not changed is the fact that we're all fragile, imperfect beings.
Well,
and so that,
except for the Republicans.
but as they zero in and they find there's a lot more things that could go wrong, are going wrong, potentially go wrong, is that part of the source of this?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's why we need to inform the public about screening and the ramifications for some of the treatment. Because really, not all the cancers that are diagnosed or found are really serious enough to have treatment. Monitoring is very wise.
That I found fascinating. You could add that they're actually, that's the biggest scare word around cancer. You have cancer. But you're saying that there are some cancers that not only you can wait on, but don't necessarily need to be treated at the moment you discover them.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
And a lot has to do, that doesn't also have to do with the status of the individual. If the individual
absolutely.
is in his or her
physical
70s, the treatment may be different, or lack of treatment than someone in their 40s or 50s.
There was a case of a 75-year-old man who was diagnosed with having polyps on his colon.
Right.
And he, they were talking about treatment and what have you. He also had a case of, cardiac arrest. He had cardiovascular problems. at his age, he thought about it, and this is, a lot of us don't think sensible about this now. He said, well, what am I going to die of a lot sooner? The polyps with colon cancer, or am I going to die of a heart attack? He thought, hey, I need to work on the heart attack more so than I do polyps, so he never had the treatment. He is still living today. He's monitoring the polyps, but also he's taking care of his cardiovascular condition. So it really is an individual that has to really look at his values, his or her values, and also look at whether they can accept the unexpected.
And quality of life.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, you look at some of the treatments that are taken care of. Let's say a female, when they discover, say, a small cancer in their breast, taking the treatment. Some take treatment using the tamoxifen, for instance. Excuse me. That is, a severe treatment that can cause clots in your lung. Okay, which you can really seriously
embolism.
yes.
So then, what type of alternatives would you recommend from?
Well, what's happening right now is just a good question. What's happening right now is that scientists, researchers are looking into better screening processes. Right now,
And targeted treatment, right?
yes, and they have ways of identifying a treatment that is less invasive as some of the other treatments that they have. I mean, you take Lupra for the colon problems that a man has. That's almost like castration. And you also have to understand that if someone has surgery for prostate cancer, 60% of them will not be able to have an erection. So those are the things you have to look at and understand. And people have to make that decision and understand and really work with their physician to have the alternatives.
No, and you look at bladder cancer or colon cancer, all that stuff, and the kind of bags you've got to be carrying then with the rest of your life. And all those things. 25 seconds left. You've been looking at this thing. I mean, one of the exciting things for me is cancer will be starting to get into the cellular level, and basically the cancer is destroying from within.
Yes. Understand this, that you have cancers that can be as minute as the period at the end of a sentence that will do nothing, but also can spread rapidly and break off and have little things go into your systems and cause some problems. But it's safe to work out, understand, and work with your physician. Don't
work with your
necessarily
physician.
have to do the treatment.
All right, work with your physician. That's our final word for the first half. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. Rexanah, welcome back. This is my first time. This is not your first time on the show,
Not my first time, but first time with you.
So, your family is from Sierra Leone, where I was a Peace Corps volunteer.
Yes.
We go talk na da kuyo.
And not to here.
Not to you. That's just an example, ladies and gentlemen, of the great mosaic of Montgomery County. But we're not talking about mosaic. We're talking about truancy. Now, I was not clear in the beginning. Are you for truancy or against truancy?
Against truancy. The State's Attorney's Office is against truancy. So why is this truancy prevention program ran through the State's Attorney's Office?
Why is it?
Well, John McCarthy, the State's Attorney, he understands the importance of having crime prevention initiatives. The truancy prevention program is a crime prevention initiative. And so
Idle minds, idle work, the
Idle
devil's
hands.
workshop.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Tools of the
And
devil.
so we work with the students, the families, Montgomery County Public Schools, school resource officers, and attorneys from our office who volunteer their time as volunteers, as well as volunteers from the community to figure out the root causes of chronic absenteeism. In 2010, we started in 2 schools, and now in the fall, we've expanded to 12 schools, adding Sligo Middle School and Redland Middle School.
Let me ask you this. I'm an immigration attorney.
Okay.
So many of the issues coming in with the gangs, and we've done a great job of going against gangs. We've exported the gang issues, and now the rise of the gangs or the explosion of the gangs in Central America is a problem that's now bringing more kids up to escape gangs. But one of the issues that kept coming up and up was this truancy, was the kids feeling lost when they had come in as immigrants and were skipping school and then getting into trouble. Can you add, what are the root causes of today's truancy for these kids?
So in Montgomery County, there are various reasons as to why students are truant. It could be as simple as not having an alarm clock. When you don't have an alarm clock, you're missing the bus, you're not going to school because you don't have the transportation.
Okay.
Or it can be as severe as their family conflicts or parental issues, so the students are considered the primary caretaker for their younger siblings.
Okay.
And
How'd you pick your schools?
well, so we work with Montgomery County Public Schools to see which middle schools may have a significant truancy rate and what schools would be susceptible to having this truancy program in place, because there are volunteers coming from the community to help out these students and their families.
And your primary point of contact in the schools, I mean, how do you approach the truant children?
So we send out permission slips and letters of invitations to the parents. We have an orientation before the 10-week session. This is a 10-week session program. And we explain to the students and the families, you're not in trouble, this is voluntary. Right. However, in this county and in the state of Maryland, there are laws that need to be followed. We want to make sure that we're helping you before it gets to a point where you're missing significant school.
And the 10-week program is in the
middle schools.
In the school.
Exactly.
So you go to
we go to the middle
kids.
schools. Yes.
You know,
Have you had any pushback from, excuse me, if you had any pushback from parents who are saying, hey, look, you're sticking your nose in my business, leave me alone?
Yeah, parents have been concerned, and so that's why we have these orientations. And we tell parents, if you do have your concerns, you're more than welcome to attend the weekly sessions. And if you aren't able to attend the session because of transportation or because of work, you can teleconference in. We want everyone to be comfortable, but at the same time, making sure that we're figuring out the root causes.
We had, I heard an interesting story coming out of Virginia Commonwealth University. In fact, it was just this morning, where we're doing a better job getting kids into college from DC and elsewhere, but once they get to college, it's very difficult. And part of it is not showing up to class. And so they saw a dramatic spike in kids going to class when they'd receive a text right after a class that they didn't show up on from the teacher saying, hey, missed you. I missed you today. Where were you? We need you to come back. I don't know, are you able to use social media in any way to get these kids?
So right now we're not using social media. We're pretty much calling the parents each week to let them know if they're not in the sessions. We let them know what's going on in the sessions. We have the school counselors and the pupil personnel workers there to be able to touch base with the students when we're not physically at the schools.
I think that's a great idea to involve the parents more so than anything else, and I think hopefully down the road you hold the parents more accountable for the actions of
Henry,
the
one
students.
second. We got a phone number if people want to learn more about this.
Yes, 240-777-7461. We are also looking for volunteers for the truancy program. We plan on expanding in the spring to 3 additional schools, and we have an AmeriCorps member who will be our Volunteer Maryland coordinator.
Good.
And they're looking for volunteers to help with tutoring, with math, and with reading. So this is something
I'll
that
help
the
with
community.
reading.
Well, you can definitely join in.
I would.
Call the number.
Yeah.
We'll set you up.
And,
Math you don't want me for.
and you can count on us as well. We'll get my office involved.
Sounds good.
All right. Listen, thank you. I wish we could go on forever, but we can't.
I'm glad to be here and be able to discuss this with you.
We'll go talk Kuo next time.
Yes. Next time.
We'll go
Stop
lefty.
it.
Yeah. So now we go from truancy to body cameras in the
sir.
schools. Hey, how are you?
Good, very good.
So tell us about the issues. I would think that body cameras are now so accepted out there. Why not inside
I
schools
don't know
too?
if body cameras are so accepted. Obviously, we read about and hear about body cameras with some very, very serious, awful occurrences around the country, which I won't get into today. But Montgomery County Police are instituting a pilot program initially to have police officers have body cameras, and some of those police officers are school resource officers. And the question has come up, will they wear those body cameras in the schools, and especially when they're interviewing and discussing situations with students? Now, I did some research on this, and on the face it's it's not a problem, but it can potentially be a problem because one example was in an article I read, someone said, hey, trust is built in a school through relationships, not through body cameras with police officers. And will a student be more reticent to tell an officer or an adult about something that's going on if he knows he's going to be, he or she knows they're going
You
to be
brought up a
filmed?
great example, which reminded me of one of my friends who was a principal at a school. And you're talking about relationships. A student walked in and told the principal about having a student that had a gun. And this is real. This is at a school. I won't mention the school, but immediately he, called in the police and everything else, and they handled it really, delicately.
Discreetly.
Yes, and they had.
Discretion.
They had the principal go in and say, "Hey, we want to talk to the student and everything else."
Right.
And the student knew, the principal and everything else. Got him out in the hallway, and no incidents whatsoever. Now, if you had a body camera with this whole situation, aren't you invading, the?
Well,
it's
is
even worse than that, though. You take a look at that issue about body cameras, and you can argue that, conversely, if it's turned off, what is the police officer trying to hide? Well, maybe nothing, but maybe something. Then, where do you store that video, and for how long do you store that video?
Well,
those are huge issues.
The research that I've done brings up all those points.
They're huge.
I want to make it clear I'm not here advocating for body camera, but it's an issue that we really have to face. In terms of the principal story, that must have been the story I told you, because I was involved in a situation just exactly
one of my friends for 40-some years.
as you described, and I found out because a student told me, and we were able to handle it without any serious incident. But yeah, the body camera issue, I think, is one that's going to have to be thoroughly discussed with all parties, and parents are going to have to understand.
It was discussed in the legislature last year. It has been discussed for the last several years in the legislature, overcoming the two-party consent rule, carving out a niche for it. So that's been discussed, but the problem is also compounded in schools by the fact that you're talking about minors in many cases.
No, well, that's what I mean by the discussion. I'm not talking about political discussion with the politicians. I'm talking about.
Well, that is part of the political discussion.
I understand, but if it gets into the schools, how do we announce this to the parents? When a kid meets with the police officer, does that mean the camera automatically goes on? And where does the video go?
Well, and it's on the. And for example,
what do you think from a legal point of view?
So I wouldn't be able to provide a legal perspective, but I do know that State's Attorney John McCarthy is in support of body cameras. The whole purpose of having the body cameras is to develop that unique bond of trust and communication between the community as well as the law enforcement.
Right.
Having SROs and the school resource officers in the school with body cameras, those are issues that need to be addressed, and so that's something that Montgomery County Police Department is still working on.
Right.
They have the 6-month pilot program, and they recently had the first conviction using a body camera in district court, Judge John Moffitt's court, I believe. And the issue there, that particular piece of video wasn't presented in court on a disc, it's on the cloud. So can you hack this information? Can you get this information? What is to happen to the information afterwards? Sure. The case is on appeal. How long do you hold the information? Just the logistics of it are enough to keep you bottled up for a
little over 30 seconds. All this discussion here, I know it's added to your understanding or thoughts. Predictions.
Oh, my predictions are, I think we're going to see them in the schools. I just believe there will be probably a pilot with a school resource officer, and I think what's going to have to be worked out is exactly what we've been talking about, is how is it used, when is it used, how do we announce it to the students, can the SRO walk up to a student in the hallway and have the camera on and discuss something, and can that be used later? Whoa.
Fascinating.
Yes.
It's the fourth of 4 fascinating topics here. Thank you guys for joining me today. And thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers, inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.